What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Figure Annuity Sales podcast. It's Caleb North here. Yet another week rolling solo, but that's okay because last week I did an episode talking about things you need to know when you're going to be getting into the annuity industry. And there was a lot of great information in there, but one of the pieces of feedback that we got was, hey, you guys, can y'all talk about lead costs? And we're like, well, of course. So this week, I'm talking all about costs of leads, kind of through that same lens of last week's episode, kind of geared toward those newer producers. But if you are an industry veteran, you've been around a long time, this is still going to be some valuable information for you as well, and could possibly shed some light on some new areas that you could be getting in front of more people in a more economical way. So my hope is that today's episode is impactful for everybody, but we're going to jump right into it. And I'll tell you what, it's funny that people ask about it, and a lot of times I can hear through the phone the jaws hit the floor when I talk about the cost of annuity leads, because they are substantially more than just about any other line of insurance. When we're dealing with agents who have historically sold Medicare or life insurance or health, and they're used to relatively inexpensive leads, and they hear that these annuity leads can range all the way up to $400 a piece, that's kind of a bit of a shock to some people. The reality is, leads and marketing in the annuity world are priced relative to, number one, the challenge that it is to actually generate the leads, and then number two, the earning potential that annuity sales have. It's quite honestly one of the most lucrative lines of business you can sell. When you look at the commission percentages and then the relation of those percentages to the sale price, it is one of the most commission heavy sales that you can make, I think, in any industry. When we have indexed annuities right now paying out 6.5% to 7.5% street comp, depending on the carrier and the product, and you're dealing with $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 sales, that is a massive amount of income. You're talking about the opportunity to, in 2 or 3 sales, make as much more, quite frankly, than what most people make in an entire year's salary in a lot of other jobs. So the earning potential is very, very real. And the lead companies know this. The marketing companies know this. And they recognize simultaneously that it isn't easy to generate high-quality annuity leads. And so when they are able to generate high-quality annuity leads, or quite frankly, annuity leads at all, they tend to price them accordingly. Now, here's the deal. Leads are obviously not the only way to be getting in front of people. There are some strategies that I would actually recommend agents use before they entertain the idea of spending, 6, 7, 8, 10 grand a month on individual leads. Now, the first thing that I always recommend agents do is work their existing book. And I know that probably makes me sound like everybody else. You've been in a real estate industry. It's like, oh, work your warm market first. I'm not trying to be cliche in that, but there is a lot of gold, a lot of opportunity to help people in another way aside from the line of insurance or business that you've already sold. So if you have a book of business on the life side or the Medicare side or the health side or whatever it is, there are inherently annuity opportunities there. The statistic that I know specifically in the Medicare world is they say that for every 40 Medicare appointments you have, not even necessarily sales, but for every 40 Medicare appointments you have, there is about $500,000 in annuity premium that could relatively easily be closed. Now, that's pretty substantial when you're talking about somebody selling Medicare, meeting with 40 people during AEP, $500,000 in annuity premium. You're talking about 30 to 35 grand worth of additional commissions. That is why I say it's worth working the existing book and the opportunities you have in front of you. I've talked to life insurance agents before that they tell Caleb, I'll meet with, 5 to 15 people a month that are 50 years and older. And I'm like, that is a perfect demographic to be having these conversations with. So I say all of that to say, if you're currently selling other lines of insurance, don't just cold turkey stop the thing that's keeping the lights on and paying the bills to add something that you think is going to be more lucrative, because annuities are more difficult to sell and can be a longer sales cycle, and the marketing is more expensive. So if you have opportunities at hand, you need to focus on getting good at cross-selling and creating those opportunities. And I'll give you one little question that you can ask. It could be Medicare, it could be life insurance. It doesn't really matter to me what the line of insurance is. When you're going through your fact finder for that specific line of insurance, ask these people that are clearly 50 plus years old, how do you intend to pay for your other retirement expenses? Do you have an IRA or a 401k or something like that? And then just let them answer. And now you know this person has an IRA or a 401k that they're intending to use to cover their other retirement expenses. Well, what does that sound like? Income. What does that mean? It means that you can have a conversation with these people about a better solution to taking distributions from those retirement accounts. There is nothing out there, no strategy, no product that will pay more effectively or efficiently than an indexed annuity with an income rider. So we have the ace of spades in the world of retirement distributions from a lump sum of assets that they don't necessarily need to keep that lump sum of assets intact indefinitely. If that lump sum of assets can deplete over time because they have their emergency funds and savings well established, they have their death benefit well established for their heirs and beneficiaries, they've got all that taken care of, we can deplete this $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 and generate an internal rate of return by way of guaranteed lifetime income. And there's nothing out there that's going to pay more guaranteed than these annuity products. So that's the one question you should be using. I recommend using when you're trying to cross-sell. You obviously need to be an expert in the annuity side as well to be able to effectively do that. If you have a great IMO, then they're going to be kind of a safety net behind you to help you walk through that process. You're not going to just be operating on an island out there. So that's the first method. If you're selling other lines of business, don't stop. Keep selling those, but then look for opportunities to cross-sell well, do it with ethics, do it with integrity, and do it in a manner that actually benefits your clients and sets them up to have a more successful retirement. Next, we're staying in kind of this vein of free strategies. I recommend creating referral partnerships. So if you can create a few, 3, 4, 5 professional referral partnerships with other agents that are selling other lines of insurance that have the demographic there for annuity products, but don't necessarily want to take the time to become an annuity expert, you can strike a deal with them to create a mutually beneficial relationship where they can actually refer over to you those retirement and annuity opportunities. Again, it's free on the front end, but then typically what happens is agents will, those agents that are creating the referrals, they'll go ahead and get licensed to sell life. They'll get their annuity suitability, best interest, their E&O, their AML, all that kind of stuff set up, get contracted with the carriers, and then get split in on apps as kind of a co-signer, co-agent on the sale to be the compensation to them for the referrals. Here's the deal. Long term, you probably end up paying a little bit more. If you're working with an IMO that is giving you leads and cutting into comp, or you're working with a referral partner, you probably end up paying more per lead long term. But the beauty of it is you don't have to pay anything in capital at the start. It's always as a result of a sale going through, and you still make a portion of those commissions. So there's 2 strategies right there that you can be using that cost you nothing except the time to become an expert in the products, which we can help you with that in Retirement Realized Agents Academy, and then the willingness to actually have conversations with people to get it going. So it doesn't require any capital to do that. Now, if you're a newer agent, and let's say you don't have existing lines of insurance, let's say you don't have a book of business built up, you don't have the connections and the relationships in the industry, and you don't have the expertise, this is an entirely different conversation because those two strategies are probably not going to be effective for you. Here's the way that I want to encourage agents to think about it. You are not an independent sales rep for an insurance company. You are building a business. If you have the mentality of, oh, I'm just a salesperson for these companies, you are going to be extremely reluctant to put your dollars into what you're actually trying to build, because your mentality is an employee mentality, not a business owner mentality. So my encouragement is to have the business owner mentality. If you come into it with this idea, I'm building a business, then the idea of starting with capital doesn't seem crazy. It seems normal. So example, this past year, I started in the cattle industry with my brother. We grew up on a ranch together. We had a dream. We wanted to get into cattle together. Well, the opportunity finally arose, and it cost us money to get started in that. We're starting a business. You go look at any other business out there, there is always startup capital required. I don't know why sometimes agents come into the insurance industry and think, oh, well, I'm just going to go sell stuff and then I'll get paid, and I'm not going to have any startup capital. It's a crazy mentality because it is literally you're building a business and it always requires startup capital. You're going to have to pay to get licensed and have your training done and buy your E&O policy. You're going to probably have to pay for training. You're going to probably have to pay for leads. And that brings us to this point about lead costs, which is really kind of the whole emphasis of today, but I wanted to give those strategies at the beginning. Guys, you might be spending between $3,000 and $10,000 a month starting out on leads and marketing. That's just the nature of it. If you're coming into the annuity industry and you're going to be set up at a comp level that is competitive, and you're going to go have the potential of, making $20, $30, $40, $50, $70,000 on an individual sale, but you don't want to spend a few $1,000s to get things kickstarted, the mindset has to be there. So what do I recommend? I recommend agents get 20 new opportunities, new leads per month as quickly as humanly possible. Why? Because when you think about typical conversion metrics on leads, let's even take a worst case scenario. You get 10 leads, you close one sale for $100,000 in premium. In that scenario, you're talking about $200,000 in annuity premium if you have 20 leads. Guys, if you can't close 1 out of 10 for $100,000 in premium, I would pretty much at any level of where you're at in the industry, your time in the industry. And this is not condescending. I don't want you to hear it that way, but I would seriously encourage you to either pay an exuberant amount for elite level training or find a different line of insurance to sell, or maybe sales isn't your thing. 1 out of 10 for $100,000 in premium, in my humble opinion, is kind of the bare bones worst case scenario minimum, that if you can't do it, something else has to give. And yes, I'm talking about, well, Caleb, I've been in the industry for 1 month. I'm not closing anything right now. Again, that to me should be kind of the bare bones minimum regardless of the tenure. So again, either get training and apply it. Going through training doesn't do you anything if you're not implementing it. So go through training and either apply it or find something different altogether. But that, guys, you couldn't go be a corporate, you couldn't be in a corporate sales position and only close 1 out of 10 for a very low premium size. I mean, industry average case size is 150,000. Find me any corporate sales position that you could go get paid in where you're closing 1 out of 10 leads for a below average sale price. You're not going to stay employed very long in any corporate setting. The same standards I personally believe should be applied to us in this industry as we come into it with a business building mentality. That said, if you go and you buy 20 leads a month, you might spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on that. $8,000 I've seen. But if you're buying 20 leads and you're closing even the bare bones worst case scenario minimum of $200,000 in premium, and if you're, say, getting a street 7% comp on a 10-year indexed annuity, you're talking about making $14,000. So if you spent $8,000 that month, which that would be if you're buying $2,400 leads, you spend $8,000 that month, you've netted $6,000. Now, I understand that we're not getting into the industry to make $72,000 a year, but that should hopefully buy you more time to get better than selling just the worst kind of bare bones minimum. So all of that said, even if you were to come in and you were to start this thing up with $8,000 a month, buying kind of those upper echelon scrubbed internet leads, buying individual leads, you should still see an ROI, albeit a small ROI, that allows you to keep moving forward. Here's the reality of the industry that we're in. The greatest cost is the cost of not writing business. So if there is anything that you can spend money on to help you write more business, it will almost, if you're good at what you do, it will almost always make you more money than you spent on it. Leads, branding, marketing, training, websites, social media, it doesn't matter to me what the thing is. Almost anything that you can put dollars into to help you close more business will be worth it in this industry. And that's because of how high the earning potential is, how high those commission percentages are relative to the sale sizes we typically see. So if you're coming into it, you got to understand you're going to be spending money. You're building a business. I recommend starting with no less than than 3 months worth of leads and marketing spend. Okay? So when you're coming into it and you're planning to spend $5,000 a month on leads and marketing, have $15,000 set aside and allocated. And the reason you want to do that is because of the sales cycle. You can close sales on August 1st and not see that go through until October. So there's a sales cycle, and it can take time, especially when you're dealing with transfer of funds from one financial institution to another, because let's be honest, the financial institution that has the money right now doesn't want to let it go. So they're going to be trying to do what they can to retain those funds. So you have a sales cycle. So come into it with a minimum of 3 months worth of leads and marketing spend. However you're going to be doing your leads and marketing, whether you're buying individual leads or you're sending out direct mailers or you're doing seminars or webinars or whatever it is, 3 months minimum, set aside, earmarked. This is for my leads and marketing. Simultaneously, be getting really, really good training. Have a systematic process. Guys, go back and watch last week's episode if you didn't, because that outlines everything you need to be doing to get started. And then this episode should give you a picture of what to expect from a leads and marketing spend. Here's the deal. To put a point on the head of this thing, you're going to be spending anywhere from a few dollars to $400 per lead. That's if we're buying individual leads. If you're booking seminars, you're going to be spending about $100 to $300 per person that shows up. Okay. Webinars, typically a little bit lower, but you have a lower sit, typically per registrant, you have a much lower sit rate than the in-person seminars. There's a bunch of ways you can do it. I don't recommend agents go into a marketing system that requires a lot of time to get traction. Like, for example, Chad, he's on the radio. Okay. That's a goal that a lot of agents have. It's a great goal to have, but that is not going to be an overnight opportunity. That is months and years worth of building to see the final fruition of what that can be. You don't have months and years if you're starting out to wait on something. Same with the self-generated leads. For example, one of our partners in Retirement Realized, Jesse Black, he self-generates all of his leads. It costs him a few bucks per lead that he generates. You can get to doing that. We train on that in Retirement Realized Agents Academy. Jesse is very vocal about his process in our paid training program. But that takes months and months to build up to. That's not an overnight thing. So when I'm talking about lead costs and I'm talking to newer agents, I'll sit here and say all day long, you need to be pretty much planning to spend anywhere from $150 to $400 per lead. And you need to be trying to get to 20 leads per month as quickly as you possibly can. And you need to have 3 months of leads budget set aside. Are leads, buying individual leads, the inherently best way to get in front of annuities clients and close deals? I don't think so. But it is the quickest way to have success. If you are a good agent, you kind of have a ability to sell. And when I say sell, I'm not talking about in a manipulative manner. I'm talking about selling being your ability to uncover somebody's problem, find a solution, and then position the solution in their terms based on what they understand and what they desire and what they need. That is sales. It's problem solving. And then being able to articulate the solution in a way that they see the benefits of it and they decide to purchase. That's all sales is. So you got to have a budget, 3 months at least of lead budget to start out, and then be getting really, really good training. Guys, I understand that that's a little bit vague. I said it a few times. I've said it in comments on threads before. We talk about cost of leads. We're dealing with anywhere from a few bucks all the way up to several $100s per lead. So there's a vast range there depending on what the lead company is doing to generate them. But if you've got some established credibility in the industry, there are some ways you can be getting in front of people in a cheaper manner than just buying leads. If you're starting out, recognize you're building a business and it's going to take some startup capital. So that is a wrap to this episode, but I do hope that it's impactful for you. I hope that it sheds light on another area of things that you need to be considering. Whether you're starting out or you're trying to scale, it doesn't really matter to me. There's some gold in this episode for you to take with you and really apply it. And guys, this is from years and years of working with agents and observing and talking to agents who are individually producing at some of the highest levels possible and have been for over a decade. So the information is solid. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Certainly, like I mentioned a couple of times, get plugged into the Academy if you're not already. And as always, I hope this helps you, and happy selling.